Well, today I want to welcome Charlie, and Charlie is a drug and alcohol counselor. And Charlie, the podcast, basically what we're doing is I'm bringing together health professionals, anyone involved with the jigsaw puzzle we call health. Obviously, it's not just what I do in chiropractic. It's not just nutrition. It's not just exercise. There's so many different pieces of that puzzle. And as I know, mental health, when it comes to the mental health can tear down everything else that you do from a positive manner. You could be perfect in all those other components of your health, but if you don't have the mental side, it's going to drag you backwards. So what I want to do today is just have you kind of go through, share with us your story and what you do, where you do it, and again, we'll get everybody to find out how to get in touch with you. So on.
So my journey really began into the world of counseling and psychology in about 2009. I lost a job in 2008. I worked for a lumber company here, and the economy crashed, and I had to figure out what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And up until that point, I had really just largely tried to figure out how to get through life without any kind of education or degrees or anything like that. High school diploma was really all I had.
I see.
So up until 2009, I was really just trying to get through life, and I was in recovery. I had been in recovery a long time. I started recovering myself in 1995, and I'd really just was trying to figure out what it means to be in a healthy relationship with myself and with other people, and that was a struggle that I didn't understand for a long, long time.
I think that's a struggle that everybody experiences. That's part of, I call the life experience.
100%.
Relationship struggle. I mean, that's part of life.
Yeah, it is the struggle of life, because all life, from my perspective anyway, all life is relationships,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
And when I started looking at that from a perspective of relationship, I had to first address the relationship with myself. And it didn't take me too long going down this road from 2009 into 2010 that I began thinking that it was time for a life change. I was going through a major life change. I was challenging everything I thought I knew. And I was a deeply religious person at one point, and went through about 7 years of deprogramming even from the religiosity and that type of mindset. And so along about 2010, my wife said, "Why don't you go back to school and you can, really kind of explore what you want to do with the rest of your life?" And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I'm in my 40s. Are you out of your mind?
Yeah, why do I want to go back and do homework again?
Right? Why would I want to do that again? Right? So I took her up on that challenge, and it just became this journey that we took together to put me back through school, to get a degree in the field of psychology, and then rather than spending all of the extra added expense of going through a master's program, I took every psychology class I could take at the university, and at the end of it, I found this really wonderful person that could help me qualify for the licensing to become a licensed drug and alcohol counselor here in Tennessee.
Love it.
And so I went through all of that, went through all the rigors of that, and I started working in the field even before I graduated. I started working in the field in 2010, just as kind of a tech, working in behavioral health, working in addiction treatment centers and that kind of thing. Spent a lot of time researching that and looking into that, and really drawing correlations between that environment and my own need for recovery.
Yeah, it's amazing how life kind of guides us down these pathways, and when the pieces all start falling together, you're on the right path.
And kind of correlating that back to the mental health piece, what I didn't realize in recovery, because I had always focused on behavior, change the behavior. Right. So if I'm trying to change my behavior, but I'm not working on the mental health piece, I'm only changing a temporary part of my pattern of behavior.
Right, because my understanding behavior, there's a big circular loop, correct? You have the trigger, you have the response, then you have the...
Correct.
There's a...
And I discovered along this journey that every relapse that I've ever experienced and every relapse that I had experienced in helping others, because I had been a sponsor for many years as well, trying to help people, in their own recovery. Mm-hmm. But every person that I had ever interacted with, including myself, I began to realize that, wait a minute, all relapses are emotional first.
Yeah.
Every single one.
Yeah, understandable. Emotional trigger.
It's like, holy smokes. This was a huge revelation to me.
Yeah.
Right? And so I started looking at that from, okay, so you got your behavior, which is a result of this emotional reaction, but where does that emotional reaction actually come from? And so I traced that back to, okay, it has a lot to do with what we call, quote, core beliefs, right?
Correct. Oh, yeah,
core
absolutely.
beliefs. Well, those core beliefs come from somewhere, right?
Mother, father, teacher, preacher is what I was always
Absolutely. Experiences, right?
Life
we are
experiences.
a
Those are all
tapestry
life experiences.
of all these experiences that we have throughout our life, from childhood into adulthood, right? And so as we create these narratives for ourselves, we all create narratives. And that becomes our foundational belief about who we think we are and what we deserve in the world.
Got it. So are there ways to recalibrate
100%.
that whole? Good. Awesome.
There's ways of actually challenging it, but I've developed something that I truly believe has been helpful, not only for me, but for dozens and maybe hundreds of other people over the years, and that is super, super simple equation, like a super simple formula. And I call it the 4 A's, the 4 A's of change. Like, what I've become aware of is the number one thing. Because without awareness, I'm dead in the water to make any kind of change.
Makes sense.
Right?
Wow.
I just keep doing the same stupid stuff, getting the same results. And you know what we all call that, right?
Absolutely.
So my awareness had to be paramount, had to be the first thing. And like when I discovered that all relapses were emotional first, holy smokes, that piece of awareness was everything. And then I started realizing that, wait a minute, in order to heal from my wounds, I had to be willing to talk about it. I couldn't just sit on the sideline and go, yeah, I'm kind of aware of some of the things that have happened to me, right? No, I actually had to talk about it and really explore what that means, because without doing that, I'll never come to terms with it and accept that reality.
Well, you have to get it out, right? Otherwise, you're just
100%.
strictly carrying the baggage with you.
We got to carry, we got to open ourselves up, right?
Yeah, give it to somebody else.
So these key words come to my mind in recovery, words like vulnerability and intimacy. And without vulnerability, intimacy is impossible. Right? Mm-hmm. And yet a lot of Americans struggle with this concept of intimacy. A lot of us.
Sure.
A lot of Americans struggle with the willingness to be vulnerable. Why? Because we've told ourselves so often that it's not safe. And so we put this form of protection around ourselves, and we don't allow ourselves. It's like this armor. We build these walls around ourselves, right?
Protection. We're trying to protect our ego or protect
absolutely
what people think of you. You know how it's
So when I started really thinking about this and thinking about my recovery and thinking about why do people struggle with the quote 12-step program so much, right? Because I've known dozens and dozens of people that have been in recovery for long periods of time.
Yes.
Yet there are times when 10 years will go by and all of a sudden they'll have a major relapse.
Yeah.
And when you start looking into that, it's always 100% of the time something happened in their life that created an emotional crisis.
Yeah, there's another trigger. A trigger happened.
And they weren't prepared for that crisis because the narrative, the core belief that they maintained hasn't been resolved.
Still there.
It's still there.
Still waiting to jump back out.
So
take back over.
So the acceptance piece has to be part of that equation, right? So we acknowledge the reality of what happened to us, accepting the reality of what it is, not as I wanted it to be, but as it is. And then if I choose to do something about all of that, and I want to take action to change something, I have every right to do that. But I won't change anything that I don't accept. And I won't accept what I'm not willing to acknowledge. And I cannot acknowledge what I'm not aware of. You see how that works?
I love that.
4 A's of change.
It's fascinating. Yeah, that's tremendous.
Super simple.
Super simple.
Right.
they just work, like I said, it's like momentum. Each one builds momentum on the other.
It is. And if you take that, just that simple concept and just break that down into like super small bites, right? Like every incident that happens in your life, if you truly believe that you have a relationship with yourself, then that means you have an intimate relationship. That means you are willing to look inward, right?
Right.
And that right there can create that vulnerability for ourselves to say, you know what, there's something in me that has to come out.
Makes sense.
There's something in me that has to be talked about. There's something in me that needs to be resolved. And that's where I like to step in, because my recovery has required me to acknowledge that although life is hard, it's doable.
Very doable, right?
Right?
Absolutely.
And trauma is something that we most Americans today have some form of trauma in their history.
You cannot escape trauma. You cannot escape pain.
Right.
Life is not pain-free.
Right.
Life is never going to be trauma-free. I believe it's all in how you respond to that.
Absolutely.
And of course, those responses get back to what you said, our core beliefs. That's how we
Absolutely.
been trained, educated. How do we respond to that?
Absolutely. So kind of circling back to the mental health again, consider that mental health, good mental health, requires a person to be healthy in their body. And that healthy body it requires particular types of nourishment,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So I ran marathons for many years in my life, right? I'm in my 60s now, and I'm trying not to prove anything to myself anymore, right?
To resist the challenge.
Right, exactly. But I ran those marathons thinking that I was doing something healthy for myself, which I was.
Right.
But what I didn't add into that component of health was conscientiousness about my dietary and how that was affecting not only my sleep, my nervous system, the inflammation throughout my body, all these things that were chronic pain in my body, right?
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir when it comes to the whole health approach. That's one thing that attracted me to my profession of chiropractic is we've always looked at the natural way the way things work naturally. And we've always said it's not rocket science.
Right.
You can't run a race car on diesel fuel necessarily. You have to have premium fuel. So why is our body any different?
Absolutely.
And it's probably been one of the greatest things that's happened recently is, of course, with the change in things, is that we're starting to see people question that. Why has it taken 30 years to remove food additives from some of our foods? It makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
If you don't think foods affect your body, go out there and give your 6-year-old a can of Mountain Dew and watch what happens.
All the time we're seeing this, right?
Yep.
We're seeing this more and more throughout in our society where people are starting to challenge the narrative. We're starting to wake up as Americans.
And I love it.
It's taken me many decades because I had no idea the types of food that I was putting in my body was affecting me adversely. Not only was it affecting my body adversely, my brain wasn't getting the nutrients that it needed. And when I was diagnosed, and I had a diagnosis many, many years ago, back in the mid to late 90s, I was diagnosed as being bipolar. And this was kind of a touchy subject for me because at first I thought, what did I do to deserve that? Right?
Right.
And then I started asking questions like, is it curable? And what does it mean? Like, what does bipolar really mean, right? So when I started looking into that, and this was long before I even took any kind of college degrees or looked into any kind of education, but I started thinking, well, if this is a true diagnosis and I have to take this medication for the rest of my life, is there any alternatives? And so having taken the medication for a while and then realizing that the medication's not actually improving, it's actually making me feel worse.
Right, causing 6 other
And then
things.
it turns into this kind of this push and pull
Yeah.
because every 3 months I'm back to the psychiatrist wondering, how come this medication's not working? And then this dosage is not the right one. And then you got to add something else because you're getting side effects from the first one.
Crazy.
And it turned into this kind of this dog chasing its tail.
Yeah, I get it. Totally understand that.
So in my effort to try to find health and wellness for myself, and I started running these marathons, and I started feeling better, but my mind wasn't clear.
Yeah, well, I think running is, you have the physical aspect, but man, is there a mental aspect, especially when you get past certain distances, right?
100%.
Hit that wall. And I think that's why a lot of people turn to something towards the challenge of running or running distances, because it's part of retraining or re-educating their brain, I guess.
Absolutely.
Or just retraining, working through those processes.
Well, for me, it was like a discipline, right? So disciplining the body and not giving into certain, temptations and things, right? So it's part of that recovery process for me. But what I started realizing was that I'm in this whole process of trying to lose weight and build a healthier lifestyle. I found myself gaining weight and feeling worse. And I couldn't figure out why. I was doing all the carb loads at the beginning of the race. I was carbing up the night before. I was eating lots of potatoes and lots of pasta and lots of things that I thought were good for my body.
Right. Following the experts.
I was following the American Standard Diet
Right.
in its entirety, right? And yet I was not only gaining weight, but I was miserable and I was mentally fatigued.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And I was having these horrible reactions, like terrible emotional reactions, right?
Sure.
And it was hard on my family. It was hard on my relationships.
Yeah.
So when I started really understanding the link between the need for recovery and my mental health, I started observing, watching other people and realizing that, wait, there's more to this than just me trying to exercise enough.
Right.
The exercise was only a piece of it.
There's more pieces of the puzzle, which is
Right.
always my favorite saying.
Because I grew up with this concept, this philosophy that if you just run enough, you just exercise enough, you'll be healthy, and you don't need to worry about the food.
Correct.
Right. And so I started realizing that how important it was to actually pay attention to what was being done to the food supply.
Yeah, that's such an interesting thing. You came to that through your own natural trial and error.
Yes.
And you discovered that it, like you said, it's not just the mental health. It's not just my physical health. I've got to bring in all these other components to be a complete person.
100%.
And complete function, all of the above.
And without that, I was kind of spinning my wheels, right? So in this journey of going through the education process and trying to improve my health and really deepening my recovery, because I thought that if I was going to be a counselor in this field, I have to walk the walk. I can't talk about it, right?
Fair enough.
So I've got to do the work.
I love that.
I'm willing to lift the weight, right? So just tell me what it is that I'm doing wrong, right? And everybody's like, well, you're not really doing anything wrong, but you may want to tweak a few things, right?
Right.
And so when I started thinking about tweaking things, I started listening to people like Dr. Kenneth Berry here in Middle Tennessee.
One of my favorites, yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I started reading material from Dr. Georgia Ede, who has just really blown the lid off of kind of what's going on mental health-wise in our nation, and how we often have acquired some of these mental health struggles through lifestyle and diet.
Yeah, that's the scary part. That
Right.
People do not know that. Parents, what they feed their children sometimes. And it always reminds me of the story. I had a friend said that he was eating dinner at one of his good friends, and the little girl was taking food off her plate and giving it to the dog. And he said, "Oh, honey, don't do that. You'll make the dog sick." As the little girl went and started eating the same food.
Imagine
And
that.
he goes, that's where my reality was like,
Holy
blew
smokes.
my mind.
Yeah.
But this is what we do. Because we don't know about it. It's a convenience. We don't have the time.
Yeah.
So, but it was just it was an eye-opening moment.
So that's kind of how I drew those conclusions. I was trying to, prepare myself for this counseling experience. Spent many years. I spent 15 years, literally spent 15 years learning what it means to be in recovery and trying to help other people.
And how long have you been doing the counseling part of it then now?
I've been doing that for 15 years. I've been in recovery myself for 30 years.
Officially for counseling then for 15 years.
Yes.
Very nice.
Yes.
And So do you do that? What is your particular approach? Is it family? Is it one-on-one, or you start with one-on-one? Or, I mean, because obviously if you're dealing with someone with an addiction, they have relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a little unorthodox in my approach. I like to see people in their natural environment, honestly. So if I have somebody call me on the phone and say, hey, we're struggling in our relationship and there's addiction issues going on and there might be some trauma stuff or we might have some mental health issues going on, the first thing I want to do is I want to go to that person's house. I want to see what's the environment. I don't want them to come to my office into this sterilized environment where I'm not going to really see who they are.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
So like I'm working with a client right now who is, I have to go see their home environment. Now, after I see them in their home environment and I visit with them, a couple of times and we kind of create a plan and figure out what we're really working on, then I may have them come to see me in my home office.
Gotcha. So once you create the relationship, makes it more comfortable for them to come in, probably be more open and more discussions and more everything.
For me, it's all about trust.
Yeah.
Right. I need my client to trust me that whatever we're going to discuss, there's a safe place for them. Right. Like no matter what they do or say, they can trust that I'm going to do the right thing on their behalf. Right.
Yeah.
And so sometimes my counseling takes turns. Like I'm not a guy that's going to just sit in the office and do talk therapy all the time. I may want to take you out to the park and get you loosened up and take you for a hike or put you in a kayak and paddle you around and get you a place where you're kind of willing to be a little more vulnerable.
Right.
So you're willing to kind of explore some of the things that are truly going on in your psyche and in your mind.
Well, I think that brings up a good point where if you can change that environment, now I think it gives you permission to kind of change some of the habit because you're not in that same habit environment. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So we often say these things in recovery, right? Like in order to make effective long-term changes in recovery, 3 things have to change, right? People, places, and things. Well, when you're talking about a family system, a family dynamic, a lot of times it is what it is, right? So when you say people, places, and things, a lot of times the people that you need to change are the family that you're surrounded with, right? And the friends that you've surrounded yourself with.
Right.
Right. How do you change the places where you're frequenting? Right. And we can talk about changing things, right? Changing patterns of behavior and changing things, but those things are often short-lived when we don't really have a safe place to retreat to when our home environment or the relationships that we're in are unsafe.
Right. That makes total sense.
So a lot of times a family, a couple, an individual may need someone who has walked that long walk and can help them strategize, finding ways of protecting themselves, keep themselves safe, even though they have to continue living in that type of environment.
Yeah, well, and also where there is a will, there is a way.
Always.
And if you have guidance or counseling, someone guiding you down that path, it just makes it the higher the likelihood of it being very successful and more long term.
Absolutely.
You're not going to go into it and fix it every time on the first opportunity, first chance.
Absolutely.
It's always move forward, step back. That's just part of growth.
Absolutely.
For everybody.
I have a young client right now that they have really struggled to communicate in their family. And yet just being a kind of a resource for them to vent and to speak of things that are important to them without creating that chaos in the family system has helped them tremendously to know what's appropriate and when is it appropriate to share or to say certain things in the family.
Yeah, that's great.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I love that.
Because it's all about relationships.
Everything is relationship.
It is.
Everything.
When somebody's trying to find the support and the help that they need, it always begins at home. It always begins with self, right? And I'm a Christian. I'm not going to back away from that, back away from those beliefs. And I just truly, truly believe that every recovery is spiritual. It's not religious, but it is spiritual.
There's a difference.
Because it's about relationship.
Yeah, there's a difference between religious and spiritual, though. That's a good point.
And I encourage people to really consider what love means to them when they're trying to find a spiritual pathway. Because if God is love, that means he's all the characteristics of the word. And if I could help somebody just realize the importance of selecting just one single word that represents what love means to them every day, just one, and commit to it, surrender to that one word. When you do that, you're literally surrendering to God, to the God of love. And over time, it's over time. It's not what people, it's not what I say about myself. It's what people come behind me to say, right? Yeah. And those words that we select that represent what love means to us, that's what helps us to change the narrative that we tell ourselves. And there's a formula to that, because love is actually a formula. It's actually an acronym. And it represents for me living our values every day.
Wow.
And the V in that word is the value word.
Values, yeah.
It's the foundation, right?
Which we know this world has got some serious challenges with that.
Absolutely.
But this is, I've thoroughly enjoyed this, Charlie. I truly appreciate you coming out. I love your approach. I think it's something that's definitely a little bit on the more unique side from what I've heard with talking with other people. And I think it's fabulous, but that's what makes everything we do. It's just like there's an art to everything. My profession has an art. You have an art. We all have our different gifts and talents. And I'm glad you're sharing yours with your community and changing lives at the same time. So Charlie, your business is called The Journey to the Way. Give us just a quick little description or definition. What does that mean?
Well, in the scripture, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except through me. So when I'm considering what it means to be a counselor, I'm literally believing that my role as a counselor is to help somebody find a pathway to peace in their life. And Journey to the Way is a journey to peace. And it begins with a single step, and every journey is important for every person that is willing to really look into themselves and figure out how to love themselves so that they could love one another, because that's really what it's all about.
That's very beautiful. And the nice thing is they do not have to make that journey by themselves.
Absolutely. And once we start the path, once we start the journey, we're never alone.
Right.
We never have to be alone, right? So to me, it's a journey to the way, the truth, and the life that we can all have if we're willing to explore it.
I love it. And I wish you all the best and continuing doing what you do. And I know you're changing lives. You're going to continue to change many lives.
Thank you for that, Scott.
You're welcome. You've been listening to Beyond the Adjustment, where we have conversations with other health-minded professionals to create a healthier community.